Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in Hythe, translated Anglo-Saxon into Haven. And it's become a real haven since we started reading every day, more than a year ago since I came to this place. Just near the English Channel, very nice atmosphere. We have Bhakti Eden again, who's joined the ashram in London and is a very nice devotee. Sham Kishore is here, manning the technical aspects. And let's get right into it. We're a little late today. I've been packing and getting ready to move up to Hereford for the upcoming surgery. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatamrta Stotra by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Glorified verses glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the basis. It's the summum bonum of all Vedic scriptures and the basis for all the subsequent Rasa Shastras from the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the direct disciples, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan especially. So the stotra goes like this. Sarva Shastripti Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwanduditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varkshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostu Me. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Mannishtadaga Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chutatakada hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit kantayo spuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, we're deep into the Rasayan section of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, the very end of the book. And Parikshit Maharaj is quoting many nectarian verses from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam to establish the position, actually, of the gopis, their exalted position. And these verses we've been reading are spoken by the gopis about the different residents of Vrindavan and how they feel that they are inferior to all of them. We're beginning with text 117. Using their upraised ears as vessels, the cows are drinking the nectar of this flute song, flowing out of Krishna's mouth. The calves, their mouths full of milk from their mother's moist nipples, stand still as they take Govinda within themselves through their tear-filled eyes and embrace him within their hearts. Commentary. By far superior to the deer of Vrindavan forest are the cows personally tended by Sri Gopal Dev. In this verse, Bhagavatam 10:21-13, other gopis glorify Krishna's cows. To the cows, the sound of Krishna's flute was just like piyusha, the nectar created on the moon. This means that Krishna's face seems to them like the moon. Anxious not to spill a drop of that nectar, they used their ears like cupped palms to drink it carefully. In other words, they listened to the flute with rapt attention. Despite the cowherds' vigilance, the shavas, or calves, some of them newly born, had somehow joined their mothers and were busy drinking their mother's milk. But as soon as the calves heard Krishna's flute, they forgot what they were doing. They simply kept their mouths' milk in their mouths without swallowing it. Or else, it may be that the calves were not present in the word, and the word shava refers to the cows themselves. The cows were so absorbed in drinking the nectar from Krishna's moon-like face that they became motionless, like corpses, shavaha. As love for Krishna swelled in the hearts of the cows, milk spontaneously flowed from their udders, and the grass they were eating remained in their mouths because they were unable to chew. The cows were raised to the highest platform of love of God by seeing Krishna with their eyes and embracing him within their hearts. They were so moved that drops, kala, of tears, ashru, appeared in their eyes. Or taking kalaha to mean producing, the cows were shedding profuse tears. Hearing this description, the gopis commented, "Dear friends, if the cows act like this, then we gopis as human beings should be excused for being driven to extremes by the force of prema." Text 118. When Krishna vibrates his flute, Vraja's bulls, deer, and cows, standing in groups at a great distance, are all captivated by the sound, and they stop chewing the food in their mouths and cock their ears. Stunned, they appear as if asleep or like figures in a painting. Commentary. This verse, Bhagavatam 10:35-5, describes the rare good fortune shared by the cows and the bulls and the other animals that were with them. Dear friends, please now hear something wonderful. When the bulls, deer, and cows hear Krishna's flute, they feel the urge to approach him. They all come from far away and stand nearby him, fully enchanted. They forget about the grass in their mouths, and it either stays there unchewed or else falls from their mouths to the ground. Their ears standing upright, the animals remain still, as if asleep, or as if not living beings, but painted images. Thus these animals, bewildered by prema, lose their powers of thought and activity. Or, explaining what happens in another way, at first the cows hear Krishna's flute from a distance as an indistinct murmur, without embellishments or even a discernible melody. But simply that faint sound is enough to capture their hearts and completely agitate them. After a short time, when the cows, bulls, and deer hear the song of Krishna's flute more clearly, they feel fear that death might intervene and separate them from Krishna. So to prevent themselves from hearing any more, they lift their front legs and forcibly cover the holes of their ears. When that fails to stop the sound, they come closer to Krishna, holding blades of grass in their mouths as a sign of humble entreaty. And when that also fails to stop Krishna from playing, they all become stunned. The word chitram in this verse is in the singular form because as these animals fell into a stupor, they came together into a densely packed group, like figures posed together in a painting. Text 119. The Aborigine women of the Vrindavan area become disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with reddish kumkum powder. Endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet, this powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds, and when the Aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they feel fully satisfied and give up all their anxiety. Commentary. The human beings in Braja, of course, are more exalted than the other forms of life. In this verse, Bhagavatam 10, 21, 17, one gopi first glorifies the outcast women who dwell in the forest. The Pulindas are the Aborigine tribe living in Braja. They are also known as Shabaras. Referring to them also implies other tribes of Braja, including the Bila tribe. The low-class Pulinda women felt fully satisfied, purna, when they smeared themselves with the effulgently red kumkum that came from the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Urugaya, who plays his flute, Gayati, in many wonderful ways. Uruda, as soon as they smeared this cosmetic powder on their faces and breasts, the Pulindas felt relief from the piercing arrows of Cupid. How was this kumkum, usually found on the breasts of women, found on the grass by the Pulindas? Out of shyness, the gopis do not explain the reason in so many words, but the fact is that this kumkum came from the breasts of some of the gopis. Those particular gopis who had succumbed to the allure of Krishna Sankirtan and the song of Krishna's flute had allowed him to seduce them. During their intimate pastimes, the kumkum had been transferred from their breast to his lotus feet. Later, as Krishna walked through the forest, the same kumkum fell from his feet onto the grass and stones on the path. Apparently, Krishna was walking vigorously because the kumkum became firmly attached to the grass and stones. And when the Aborigine women, foraging for wood and wild herbs, came to the same part of the forest, they discovered the kumkum. Why were the Pulindas disturbed by lust? Seeing the kumkum on the ground reminded them first of Krishna and then of his intimate affairs with the gopis. Thinking about these things agitated their minds. The word smara can be understood to mean either remembrance or Cupid. And how were the Aborigine women relieved of this agitation? By picking up the red powder and smearing it on their faces and breasts, which were burning with lust. Having done this, the Pulindas felt completely satisfied. In contrast, the gopis speaking and hearing this account lament that they will never feel so satisfied. As implied by the words Shri, splendid, and Mandita, adorned, the kumkum became more beautiful by being smeared on the breasts of Krishna's beloved gopis, and even more effulgent by contact with Krishna's lotus feet. Although the Pulindas normally have no beauty or glow on their faces, when they decorated their own bodies with this kumkum from the grass and stones, they became beautiful, effulgent, and free from the pain of lust. The gopi speaking means to say, we are condemned because we cannot become exalted like the Aborigine women. Or, looking at the situation another way, because the blessed gopis are always immersed in the torment of separation from Krishna, they tend to presume that everyone else must also be suffering the same way. And so the Pulindas too, they think, must now be suffering the pain of separation from Krishna. The limbs of the Pulindas were covered, purna, with kumkum that looked exactly like the color of the soles of Sri Urugaya's lotus feet. So when the gopis saw the Pulindis, the gopis remembered how for Krishna's pleasure they themselves at first decorated their own breasts with that same kumkum. Because the color of that kumkum resembled the hue of Krishna's feet, the gopis liked to use it. Another explanation is also possible. The wonderful music of Krishna's flute had drawn the gopis into the forest to wander about, searching for him. And when they couldn't find him anywhere, in the anguish of viraha bhav, they rolled on the ground, smearing the grass with the kumkum from their breasts. Later, when the Pulindis came, simply seeing the red powder made them remember Krishna and his dealings with the gopis, and they were stung by the arrows of Cupid. Thinking about the great love the gopis have for Krishna, and recalling that this kumkum had been in contact with the gopis' bodies, the Aborigines picked up some of the powder with great reverence and applied it to their faces. Then their own lust impelled them to smear it also on their breasts. But they wiped this kumkum off their bodies and threw it away. Why? Because it caused them intense pain. They were already disturbed by lust just by seeing the kumkum, and when they touched it, their minds became thoroughly agitated. Then when they smeared it on their faces and breasts, the pain became so extreme that they quickly wiped the kumkum off and threw it away, afraid that otherwise they would come to a bad end. Alas, the gopi speaking complains, just like those Pulindis, we too are most unfortunate, cast into an ocean of intolerable pain. But just see how especially unlucky we gopis are. Just by touching the cosmetics from our bodies, people feel such misery that they throw the stuff away to protect their lives. Text 120. Sometimes Krishna would go to a somewhat distant place to see the beauty of the forest. Then all the other boys would run to accompany him, each one saying, I shall be the first to run and touch Krishna. I shall touch Krishna first. In this way they enjoyed life by repeatedly touching Krishna. Commentary. The cowherd boys who constantly accompanied Krishna are certainly superior to the Aborigine forest women. Parikshit Maharaj now recites 6 verses to praise those cowherd boys, or Gopakumaras. The first 3 verses are spoken by Shukadev Goswami in the 10th canto, chapter 12, texts 6, 11, and 12. They describe how these boys joined Krishna in tending the cows. Very early in the morning, the Supreme Lord, eager to enjoy the day's countless pastimes, like killing Aghasura and eating lunch on the grass, called out to his friends by bugling on his buffalo horn, and they came out of their houses by the thousands, tending thousands, millions, and billions of calves. they all set out to the forest. They decorated themselves with forest ornaments of fruits, twigs, and other items, and sported by playing their flutes, blowing their horns, imitating animals, and playing keep-away with one another's lunches. They played all these games simply for Krishna's enjoyment. They had a chance to touch Krishna and embrace him, which gave them the highest happiness. In their eagerness, they competed to see who would be first to touch Krishna. Sometimes the beauty of Vrindavan and other forests would so beguile Krishna that he wanted to go alone to explore them. But he was so attached to the company of his friends that he would leave them only for a short time. Then the boys would run after him, trying to follow him on his solitary side trips. The cowherd boys were not satisfied unless they could be right there with Krishna and able to touch him. Text 121. In this way, all the cowherd boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities for many lives, used to play with Krishna, who for unpersonless jnanis is realization of the bliss of Brahman, who for devotees in eternal servitorship is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who for ordinary persons is but another ordinary child. Commentary. Amazed by the incomparable good fortune of the cowherd boys, Sri Badarayani continues to praise them for their joining Krishna in his cow tending and other such pastimes. By associating so intimately with Krishna, these boys were directly experiencing the transcendental happiness of Brahman realization. Krishna is the supreme worshipable deity of saints, Satam, who have been given the privilege to enter his service. Satam also means liberated souls. Krishna's friends in Braja are liberated persons who take part in the happiness of knowing Brahman, the absolute truth. Most people, however, are not liberated. They are Maya Shrishta, bewildered by the Supreme Lord's power of illusion, and therefore they consider Krishna an ordinary cowherd boy, Nara Naraka. Satam can also be understood to indicate the seekers of spiritual knowledge, who realize Krishna in his impersonal Brahman feature and enjoy the happiness of knowing Brahman in that way. But to the Vaishnava devotees who consider themselves Krishna's servants, Dasyam Gatanam, Krishna, the Supreme Master, Paradaivata, gives himself, submitting himself to their control. Material nature bewilders the entire creation, but Krishna's pure servants bewilder him by the strength of their pure love, and thus defeat material nature. Taken in another sense, Maya Shritanam refers to Krishna's beloved gopis, who worshipped the goddess Maya with choice mantras. Each of the young unmarried girls performed their worship while chanting the following mantra: O goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Bhagavatam 10:22-4. These gopis could see Krishna only as an attractive youth, Nara Dharaka. They gave no thought to his godly omnipotence. As if ordinary girls, they simply focused their attention on him as the sole object of their desire and affection. Or, on another reading, Or another reading, the same Krishna, who is the constant companion of the cowherd boys, is also amorous appeal personified for all human females, Naradara. Or else Krishna figuratively tears apart all persons, Naran Daryati, by filling their hearts with unique love for him. Of course, Krishna's attraction in the conjugal rasa is most appropriately described in relation to women, but because the gopis presume every human being to be like themselves, they think that Krishna tears apart the heart of everyone and fills it with love. This presumption is suggested by the use of the masculine form Nara Darakena, which can be grammatically understood to include both males and females. Accepting that Maya Shritanam refers to the gopis, in this verse we have a hierarchy in which the devotees in eternal servitorship are higher than the jnanis, and the gopis are still higher. Thus in this verse, which glorifies the cowherd boys, the greatness of the gopis is also to be seen. The cowherd boys of Braja, to become eligible to play as they do with Krishna, must have performed heaps of pious deeds in their previous lives. The word punja, great quantity, implies that these boys must have had an inexhaustible stock of pious credits. And the word krita, in krita punya punjaha, as in the similar expression kritartha, having achieved the success of one's life, indicates that their past pious works were of a very special quality, pure acts of sacrifice offered to the Supreme Lord for his pleasure. Or the word punya in this context can be interpreted to mean activities of pure devotional service. For Krishna himself says, Dharmo mad bhakti krit prokta. Actual religious principles are stated to be those that lead one to my devotional service. Bhagavatam 10:11, 19, 27. Or else krita can mean the ancient Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga, when the great souls who were later to become Krishna's friends performed faultless meditation on the personality of Godhead and became all around perfect Vaishnavas. Although the darling son of Nanda Maharaj is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, very few persons are fortunate enough to know him as he is. The knowers of the impersonal, Supreme, realize him in the form of Brahmasukha. In other words, within their hearts, they can enjoy only the perception of his existence as pure spirit. And even most Vaishnava devotees realize Krishna only as the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, the Supreme Truth, the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Lord. Burdened by a sense of reverence for him, they worship accordingly and experience a corresponding quality of bliss. But Krishna's beloved gopis in Braja realize him as Sri Nanda's young son, freed from theoretical knowledge and reverence that would damage the treasure of their most exalted love. They experience the highest prema. This truth has been stated repeatedly in Brhad Bhagavatamrta, but it cannot be overstressed. The gopis are always beside themselves with transcendental anxiety due to the excessive love they feel for Krishna. They usually cannot be with him during the day, and even in their nocturnal meetings, they do not feel as completely free to enjoy with him as they would like because of the constant threat of opposition from their husbands and families. The cowherd boys, on the other hand, are always free to play with Krishna in varieties of pastimes both at home and in the forest. Therefore, their good fortune is most exceptional. This does not contradict the many statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that confirm that the blessed gopis are more exalted and fortunate than all other beings. Rather, it indicates that the revered Shukadev, in the core of his heart, is a follower of the gopis' mood of devotion, and therefore, while elaborating on the wonderful pastimes of Krishna and the cowherd boys, and glorifying the boys for being able to play constantly with Krishna in the forest, he speaks like the gopis themselves. Oh, Shukadev's style for praising the Gopakumaras as supremely fortunate is non-different from the way the gopis themselves describe as the perfection of vision, the sight of Krishna's face while he sports within the forest. O friends, the eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaj Nanda are certainly fortunate. As these two sons, surrounded by their friends, enter the forest, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision. Bhagavatam 10:21, 7, text 122. Yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances for many births, yet in due course of time, when these yogis attain the perfection of controlling the mind, they will still be unable to taste even a particle of dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then can we describe about the great fortune of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, with whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally lived and who saw the Lord face to face? Commentary. The good fortune of the cowherd boys in being able to see Krishna face to face defies description. What to speak of how blessed they must be to be able to play with Krishna constantly. The cowherd boys and all the residents of Brajabhumi are the most fortunate beings in creation because they can look directly on the beauty of Krishna. Dedicated yogis endeavor for lifetimes to approach Krishna, but for all their labor, they can never hope to become as fortunate as the Brajavasis. Even one particle of dust from Krishna's feet is impossible to achieve for yogis who do not follow humbly in the footsteps of the devotees of Braja. The meaning of the dust from Krishna's feet may be understood in several ways. It can mean a single atom of his feet. It can mean the marks of his footprints in the dust of Brajabhumi. It can mean dust that has been in contact with his feet and then shaken off somewhere in his wanderings. It can refer to anything that has been even indirectly in contact with his feet, no matter from how far away. Or in the words of Padapangshu, or the words Padapangshu, the dust from Krishna's feet can be redivided and modified to Padapapa Angshu, meaning the effulgence, Angshu, emanating from Krishna's favorite Kadamba trees and the other trees, Papada, Padapa, of the Vrindavan forest. Even the most distant contact with Krishna's Padapangshu in any of these senses is, for mystic yogis, a rare accomplishment. Determined yogis, in their attempts to succeed, practice severe disciplines, such as brahmacharya and other austerities. For many lifetimes, they struggle to steady themselves by withdrawing the mind and senses from material objects. But even if they achieve the success of samadhi, they cannot achieve Krishna, who is the full embodiment of spiritual perfection, Satchit Ananda, Ganamurti. He is beyond the purview of the senses. Only the Brajavasis can see him as he is. The form of the Supreme Lord, visible in Braja, is not a vibhuti, one of God's opulent expansions, nor is he a personal incarnation, a partial incarnation of Godhead, nor is he even Lord Narayana. He is the original source of all forms of God, yet viewable by the cowherds like any other perceptible object, and constantly fixed, sthitaha, in their sight. In other words, he never leaves the path of their eyes. How then can the exalted, fortunate fortune of the Brajavasis ever be adequately described? Or, translating Shukadev's question in a different way, Kim Varnyate Dishtam asks whether the condition of the Brajavasis is a result of their fate. The answer, of course, is that the Brajavasi situation is not the karmic effect of pious work done in previous lifetimes. It is solely the result of Krishna's mercy. Or, dividing the words another way, the fortunate condition of the Brajavasis is a perpetual festival, Dishta Maho, or the power of their good fortune is inconceivable, Adishta or Adrishta Maho. The pure devotional service of the Brajavasis displays all these features. A discriminating reader may question the placement of this verse, which tells of the good fortune of merely seeing Krishna, after the verse depicting the special fortune of the cowherd boys in being able to always play with Krishna. The good fortune of playing with Krishna automatically includes the good fortune of seeing him and goes beyond it, the reader may argue. So placing these items out of the natural logical order of lesser to greater, general to specific, is a fault in poetic style. To accommodate this reasonable doubt, we may construe Shukadev's statements yet in another way. The boys who enjoy playing with Krishna are indeed extremely fortunate, and this verse amplifies that assertion by showing that actually all creatures living in Braja are fortunate beyond description. It is easy to prove that any resident of Braja is greater than the most accomplished yogi. So it naturally follows that the boys who live so closely with the personality of Godhead are also uniquely dear to him, are of all living beings the most exalted. Whoa. Or we can say that Shukadev is continuing to glorify the cowherd boys, in particular, these inhabitants of Brajabhumi, because Krishna is the constant object of their vision. The eyes of the Gopakumaras see Krishna and nothing else. As a general rule, each individual sense has its own proper object. The sense of sight perceives only visible forms, not tastes, smells, or other sensations. But the attention of the boys is so engrossed in Krishna that they are disregardful of whatever else is present before them. The eyes of other people perceive various objects like pots and cloths, but wherever the cowherd boys turn their eyes, they see only Krishna. That is to say, they see everything in relationship to Krishna. The poetry of Sri Jayadev Kavi illustrates this kind of special vision. Pashyati dishi dishi, rahasi bhavantam. In every direction, in every secret corner, she sees only you. Gita Govinda 12:1. Thus, it is appropriate for Shukadev to speak this verse after the previous one, since even greater than the cowherd boy's good fortune of always playing with Krishna is their being always able to see him everywhere. This marks their love for Krishna as being almost as good as that of the gopis. Hare Krishna. So that brings us past 8 o'clock. So we'll stop here. I have to finish packing and getting ready, and we have to leave very early in the morning. So, Hare Krishna. We'll end the reading tonight, and ask for any reflections, comments, discussions. Of course, it's hard to say anything after that. That's true. But we can appreciate it, and that makes it even more deep and more pleasurable and more full of varieties.
Gopakanya Devi Dasi said, Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol Gopakanya. She's right off the blocks every time. Eager, the most eager.
Rati Manjari said, great to see you again doing what you do best. My hearty congratulations to Bhakta Eden on his glorious decision to join the Hare Krishna movement. May you find your heart's desire becoming fulfilled, and may you attain the lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
Whoa, what a benediction. Thanks, Rati. You'll meet her someday. She's a real special person.
Noel Craver. Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, nice to be with you as you deliver the mail to us. I miss this transcendental sound vibration when I cannot tune in to hear. It is like Krishna's flute that the cows hear, pure nectar. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Well, in answer to that, I say that I was just sent a video from the YouTube, and so these live readings are actually put onto the YouTube by Mayapur Shashi Prabhu, dear disciple and exalted person who lives in Taiwan, in the hills above Taipei. Yeah, and I must say I watched part of it, and it's much clearer than the Facebook readings video, much clearer. And also, they're arranged in such a way that you can search them very easily. So anyway, I'm just saying, even if you miss the live readings, when you go to the YouTube, and the name of the channel is the same, Daily Readings of Srila Prabhupada's Books, you can get the videos even in a better quality. Hare Krishna.
From Santarup Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Ho.
Very reassuring to hear that Krishna
Reassuring.
To hear that Krishna is tearing our hearts apart to fill it with love. Is this what we can see as his unlimited mercy? Thank you for the daily glimpses in the spiritual world.
Yes,
it's getting addictive.
Yes, you can see it as Krishna's unlimited causeless mercy on all living beings.
Santarup Devidasi, hope everything goes well tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow is just the voyage up there. And then the next morning, or next noontime, then I go what is called a pre-op exam. And then on Sunday, that's Friday, then on Sunday I have to have a COVID swab. Very uncomfortable, but no problem. And if that is negative, and it will be because I have 2 vaccines. And anybody who doesn't want to take vaccine, I say they're crazy. Thank you. Do your research and you'll find out that it's actually the best thing to do for everyone, not just for us, but for everyone. And then on the 12th, at 7 in the morning, I'll go to the hospital for the operation. That doesn't mean the operation will happen at 7, but I just go there for preparation. Hare Krishna. So it's quite an adventure.
Nandamurti Devi Dasi said, Jai Gurudev, please accept Mahabur obeisances.
Jai Nandamurti.
For grace to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for everyday reading. From Indranuja Das.
Japan.
Hare Krishna.
Maybe. Or Wales. One of the two. Yeah.
Are you going to Hare Krishna Dham? Safe journey.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Glenn Avery said Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. So, yeah. So the readings, I'll still keep my readings up every evening, starting tomorrow evening in Hereford. And some of you might have seen readings that I did there the last time I went there, and this beautiful altar that they have, and would be very fortunate to sit in front of that altar and do our readings while I'm there. And then on the 12th evening, I won't be reading, and probably for some time after that. I don't know how long it's going to be, but the last time I stopped the readings for almost a month, because it was very difficult. It is very difficult. You can't sit. No possibility. So let's see. But I will just be feeling intense, increasing agony of separation from these readings, because they have become my life and soul. And from what I understand and from what I've heard from others, it's catching on. We now have, I think we have 500, we have 2,600 followers on the Facebook, and we have 500 subscribers to our channel, to our YouTube channel. Of course, this is nothing to some of the persons who have millions of hits and millions of views, but this subject is so rare and so deep and so beneficial that we can't expect that many people to be able to appreciate fully. So let's see what happens. But I know one thing for sure, as Prabhupada explained to us, if you do something in devotional service every day, it grows, and it will grow. And as this pandemic continues to go on, and people become more and more suffering condition, more and more people will become attracted. Hare Krishna. Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same place, no, different place. Different live studios in Hereford at the abode of the Raos. Chakravarti Das Adhikari, Mahalakshmi Das Adhikari, and their two beautiful children, Govinda Madhava and Hari Priya. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Glories Prabhupada.